why don't you give us the quick story? I'm gonna retell it wrong, but I remember the story with the what would you call them? Like white goods brands that you worked with, where there was a deal going on in Germany. You were in Australia. You had 24 hours to go and do a deal or something like that. Because I really want people to catch the level of business that you have used to being exposed to. Then I want to come down to how does that matter to the little guys, right? So tell us, just give us that story again.
Sure. Yeah. I was the CEO of Hagemeyer Brands. So we had Smeg, Amiga, Blanco, Dietrich, a lot of cooking brands. We had a couple of consumer electronics brands as well, JVC, Polaroid. So it was a multinational branded organization, and it was owned by Rexel, which was a listed French company. So my job was come in, do the turnaround, and then that business was doing well. So we had some interest to sell that company, and Rexel, who owned it, were quite keen to move it on. It wasn't their core business. So the turnaround had happened, and there was a deal on the table. Lots of complexity because each of the brands had to agree to the deal going through. So we had local Australian buyers with a head office in Hong Kong. We were owned by the French, and we had Americans, Japanese, more French, Germans, with all and Italians, with all the different brands. So there was massive complexity in putting that in that deal together. We'd gone through all that. It's 2:00 in the morning. We're all on the phones. There's a lot of things being printed out, lots of lawyers in different jurisdictions, all interested in the last piece of that deal. And just at the last minute, the Germans decided that they didn't want to do the deal, so they picked up their Wiener Schnitzel and went back to what they were doing. And we said, look, let's everyone else sign the documents. Let's just lock this deal out. And my boss, who was French, said, Mark, would you fly to Germany and convince the Germans that this is really a good idea after all? And I'm thinking, well, lady, you're in Paris. You could just drive down the road. But okay, I'll jump on a plane from Sydney and go and have lunch with the Germans, which I did. I'm sitting on the plane, contemplating this deal, and just spending a little bit of time with God and thinking, well, if this deal goes through, I don't actually have a job at the end of it because they already have a team in place. So how keen am I really on doing this deal? And if it's really of you, then let's do it. And but I really don't want to go through a long, drawn-out process. So Lord, if this is you, can we just do this deal super quick? And sometimes you get an urge to pray a brave prayer. And I said, Lord, I just really want to walk out of that meeting with a signed contract. And I just at that point in time, I just had an idea around a little bit of logic on the deal that might sort of shift the table a little bit. And I felt it was from God, and I just tucked it away. And sure enough, got to Germany, went through the whole German thing, and had the meetings, and it wasn't going particularly well. They were a fairly entrenched position. And I just put this little piece of logic on the table around the deal. It seemed relatively insignificant. Put it on the table, and it was like the atmosphere in the room had completely shifted. They were suddenly interested. And long story short, we actually signed the contract on the day and then took it to our boards later. But we signed the contract on the day. I literally walked out of that room with a signed contract. And I put it down to that little piece of revelation, relying on God. Sometimes we don't think he's interested in commercial things, but he's vitally and intimately interested in everything we do. And he's placed us in the workplace, in the marketplace, to be his ambassadors and to do his will and build his kingdom. And he's interested in the big things and the small things. And it's an example of, this opportunity that we have as Christians to leverage our relationship with the Lord, if that's an appropriate thing to say.
Sure. Yeah.
Where we co-labor with God and align ourselves with what he's doing, be surrendered to his will, and we should expect his hand on what we're doing.
Yeah, I love it, Mark. I love that story. And I just wonder whether there is a direct correlation between you getting a download and being at 35,000 feet, because you're above all the stuff and you're just a little bit closer. and I just wonder whether that's got anything to do with it.